In my uneducated in terms of economics and global manipulations of money and so on and so forth, in my way, I've been trying to see what I can learn with this crisis that's going on in Greece. And it is a crisis, isn't it? Now, the last thing that I heard, I think it was this evening, was that the door is still open for the Prime Minister, Tsipras, to come up with something before the spigot is turned completely off. The banks in Greece are running out of money. This is really a torture scenario that we're watching. This is what happens this is the only conclusion I can come to. This is what happens when you really piss off the global neoliberal banking debt vampires. They are making it very clear how they play the game. They don't give a goddamn if your family starves, your grandma gets thrown off a pension. They don't care if your roads are collapsing. They don't care if your unemployment rate is higher in Greece than it was globally during the Great Depression. None of that matters. None of it. To the international capitalists, the only thing that matters is to hang your ass into debt and then squeeze you until they own your whole freaking country. I frankly, over the past few days, I've come to the conclusion from reading the people I mentioned I've been reading lately, I've come to a conclusion that the entire Eurozone idea was a massive trap. It's like a roach hotel. You check in to the Eurozone, check into their funny money, but you can't check out. Understand that in the bylaws that were set up to run the Eurozone and for the countries who are going to use the euro as their funny money, there were no provisions whatsoever for a country being able to withdraw, for a country who signed in to sign out. The story that's being put out there is that the Greeks are just suffering from the profligate spending that they enjoyed, which is, very bluntly, a lie. The Greeks have some responsibility, and I think their responsibility is in believing that they had an ice cube's chance in hell up against countries like the Scandinavian countries, Germany, France, Belgium, these northern European countries. Now, it's not just Greece that's really suffering. It's also Italy, Portugal, Spain. And the big mistake the Greeks made was in giving up their own currency. Now, this sort of thing has happened before, where a country goes bankrupt, but it's usually a matter, I don't want to say a simple matter, but it's a matter of devaluing their own currency, which makes imports more expensive, exports less expensive. So all of a sudden, there will be interest from the global community to buy the products from a country that has devalued its currency. And once that happens, it creates jobs and the economy starts to come back. But when you don't own your own currency, as the Greeks don't, you are screwed. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing the Greek people can do. I heard today that their indebtedness is 200% of their gross domestic product. I've also heard economists in little blips and blurps and snatches around BBC and the internet and so on and so forth, that there is no way mathematically possible for the Greeks to get out of debt. And then I think of this goddamn Angela Merkel, what she is just an iron fist, will not give up. How much debt was forgiven that the Germans owed after World War II? Now, I understand after World War I, and I think this is what payback, this is probably the institutional memory, to a degree. I know I'm getting crazy here, but to a degree, the institutional memory in Germany, where you sons of bitches really punished us after the Treaty of Versailles. Payback. Nah, couldn't be. But after the second round of the global war, how much German debt was forgiven? It's my understanding, from what I've been reading, that it was hundreds of millions of US dollars, billions maybe. And that allowed, after the Germans being absolutely crushed, it took them how many years to come back as a global economic power? And now Merkel and the rest of her Eurozone predators are saying to Greece, screw you. We're not going to do that for you. Now, I realize I'm making this so simple, and I mean that simple in the sense of you don't know what the hell you're talking about, Malloy. But this is the conclusion I come to. Now, there's a second conclusion that I come to. And that is the Greeks have finally decided, they decided in the referendum last Sunday that they've had enough. And I think this is just, it's just one example of what's going on globally. In other words, there's a good chance here the Greeks are showing the way. They're the ones out there. Who was it with the lantern looking for an honest man? Who was that? Demosthenes? Who was that, Kathy? I don't know. I don't remember my Greek mythology. But here the Greeks are saying, we are not going to sacrifice 2 or 3 generations and our country in order to meet the demands of these goddamn bankers who are only interested, they don't give a rat's ass about us. They want the money. Give us the money. We don't care how many of you die, how many of you starve, how bad your economy gets. We want it now. Well, maybe the whole world ought to take a look and see Greece not as a failure, but Greece as a leader to finally overthrow these capitalist predator sons of bitches who are destroying country after country. Look what this austerity crap has done here. But we make our own money. When we run out of money, we just print mountains more of it. We'll be right back.